So let me talk about this because this is pretty much your outcome. This is like the saving grace in this spread. Both amazing cards, okay? The Ace of the Ace of Feathers. This is the Ace of Swords, okay? Understanding. And this is not about understanding how something works, understanding how events transpired, understanding what happened. It's requiring you to look at things from a different perspective with the Hangman. Okay, looking at life upside down. So, one of the things that I was taught about my job, which my main job, was a lot of the times we are very quick, when someone gives us a piece of information, we're very quick about tearing it apart, dissecting it, and proving it wrong, right? The way our mind works. And in using the scientific method, we want to test theories, test hypotheses, and we want to, given a fact, we think of all the ways in which it could be false. But the work that I'm doing right now is the opposite of that, because given a piece of information, we think about all the ways in which it could be true. So we operate under the assumption that it could be true. And then we ask questions around it to either debunk it or to prove its truth. And so I feel like there's a lot to be said here about a situation where you understand it, you understand how it works, you understand what it encapsulates, you understand what it's about. But it's really forcing you to look at things from a different perspective and really questioning, do you know all there is to know about the situation? Is there something that you're overlooking? With this Ace of Feathers, this is almost like, the goat is really cute, right? Like in this depiction, he's very adorable, but he's also got his head held up. It's like turning up your nose at something. It's like being a little bit, I want to say, presumptuous, and being a little bit like, oh, I already know that. So it's really asking you, is there something that you might possibly overlook? Is there something about this situation that you're not 100% aware of? Is there some missing information that could potentially dissuade you from a specific course of action or a specific opinion? Is there some major piece of information that could turn this situation around? Because I feel like at the very last moment, there's going to be something coming into the picture that will turn the situation around. A last piece of information, a last ditch attempt, because I feel like somebody is trying to communicate with you. And then I also feel you could also be dealing with somebody who you're trying to communicate with, and they're like, I already know everything. So they could appear very haughty, very like a know-it-all, or very much like very fixed in their opinions. They've got their minds made up and nothing can persuade them otherwise. And I feel like at the very last minute, it's like a very last ditch attempt to turn a situation around. Okay? It brings about clarity. It slashes through all these assumptions and presumptions we have about the situation or the person. And then I also feel like it's going to throw a wrench in the works, because it's taking into account a factor, a piece of information that you have not thought about prior. And because of that, it turns the situation around. Okay. I do feel it's for the better. I don't feel that you have to worry about that. There is another message or there was another image that came through when I was shuffling. So let me talk about it really fast, because I feel like it's echoing the same theme, but maybe it might apply for some of you. I see this baby. He's a little boy. He's a toddler, like really young toddler. So, he's at an age where he can crawl around and can make noises and stuff, right? So like probably around 2 or 3. He's sitting on a couch, and it zooms into him sitting on a couch, and he's so adorable. And I'm kind of seeing his profile. He's looking this way, okay? He's on the couch, and mom and dad are kind of walking past him, walking back and forth, possibly packing, maybe moving, renovating the house. Either way, they're very busy. They're walking back and forth. And he's looking at all this activity around the house. He's looking at mom and dad pacing back and forth. And he's confused. You know, he's just like, why does it feel so tense in here? Why does it feel so busy? Why is why do they both seem so worried? So keep in mind, his whole world revolves around his mom and dad, okay? So babies are designed in such a way that, you know, they recognize their caretakers. They recognize the person that will feed them, the person that will tuck them into bed, the person that will protect them from harm. So, you know, it's an evolutionary development where in utero, they recognize their mother's voice, their father's voice, if the father's in the picture. Um, and they recognize, you know, for sheer survival instincts, they recognize faces that of the people that will take care of them. And so he's looking at the faces of his parents, and I don't see their faces. I just see them kind of like walking back and forth near him. And they seem worried, they seem distressed. And he's just like, he feels anxious, but he's a baby. He doesn't know why. And then he's kind of scared a little bit. He feels uncomfortable. He feels scared. So he reaches his arms up. And when babies do that, it means they want comfort. They want to be held. They want to be close to you. They want to either soothe themselves or even sometimes soothe you. And mom and dad is just walking back and forth. They're too busy and wrapped up in their own things, and they don't notice that he's crying for attention. So he does that, and then he gets ignored, and then he, you know, starts making noise with his mouth, and he gets ignored, and then he starts crying. But I don't hear any noise. I don't hear any sound. I don't hear the sound of the child crying. I just saw this scene where there's a situation that where somebody is like reaching out, trying to contact, trying to communicate. They might not have the vocabulary in which to communicate with you. And so the scene cuts out. So I feel as if it's asking you, you know, is there somebody in your life that you're not giving enough attention to? And, you know, God forbid, I don't think it's like a toddler, but I feel like it's somebody who is not able to communicate, who might not have the vocabulary, who might not have the linguistic skills, who might not be mentally aware of their needs and their wants. They just know that they feel uncomfortable. They just know that they want to break the silence. They just want attention. They just want you to focus on them. And you're very busy going about your day. And this is where I feel like, you know, you feel like the other person might be a little bit melodramatic, but I feel like you're dealing with someone who's very deeply intuitive and very deeply sensitive as well. The way in which they project it is, they're very proud. Okay. So when they want something and it's shut down, then they recoil and they never ask again. Okay. So that's what I'm sensing. I feel for many of you, there's a situation here. It's like a love relationship. It could be family as well, but I feel more so love relationship with a significant other, where one person might want to be, you know, intimate, and the other person's very busy. And then the person that wants to be intimate asks like, hey, you know, let's spend the night together. And the other person's like, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. So just imagine if someone is like coming to you with their all, with their hearts on their sleeves, wanting to have, you know, like making themselves very vulnerable, wanting to be intimate with you in like a very vulnerable way, emotionally, physically, and just giving you their full being, and you're telling them, oh, I'm busy. And you don't follow up with more explanations. You don't follow up with like a hug. You don't follow up with like a promise. Oh, we'll do this next time. You know, it's very hurtful. So I feel like somebody might be dealing with this, and then it happens time and time again, and it's hurtful, and you become callous. You stop asking. You stop wanting to be intimate. You become resentful. You start wanting to get back at the other person. You start wanting to do things and say things and behave in a way so that the other person knows and sees and understands that, oh, I don't need you. Because that's what I'm feeling here. We have here the Four of Wands. This is a family situation, but what I'm seeing here is this is turning away. And then I have here the Empress, very bashful. Bunnies are very skittish. Okay, they're very shy innately and very warm and cuddly. But in this situation, it's like you come at somebody with your all, and without an explanation, it feels like somebody's rejecting another person. And then over time, so that same scenario, over time, the one person has been turned down many, many times. They become callous. They become resentful. And then when their partner is in a tough situation and their partner needs them, then they're just like, oh, you're being melodramatic. You know, you should learn to take care of that yourself. So I feel here there's deeply entrenched resentment and deeply entrenched resentment that is coming to the light. And I feel that this conversation, there's going to be a communication breakthrough. Thank God. Because everything is done so subversively and so like passive aggressively. It's really frustrating for me to see this and be in it. It feels so uncomfortable. So everything has been under the radar, has been done in a very passive aggressive manner, has been, it's like fumbling around for your keys. You're frustrated. It's dark. You can't see what you're looking at. You're trying multiple sets of keys to get into your house so you can, rest and recuperate. And you're fumbling and it's cold outside and it's like a combination of things and it just piles on and it's really uncomfortable. And I feel like it's so subversive, under the radar, looking on at a situation, wondering what the other person's up to, and yet not willing to communicate, like, what are you doing today? How was your day today? Just like silent treatment, I feel. Silent treatment, passive aggressiveness, silent treatment, everything is done under the radar. It is so uncomfortable for me to read this. I hope you guys are not dealing with this because as a water sign, I can't imagine this being a comfortable place for you to be in or a comfortable relationship for you to have to endure. We don't have to endure relationships, but that's what it feels like here. And then I also feel like somebody is very prickly. The porcupine. Somebody's very prickly. Imagine slight. You could give them a compliment and they're defensive, and they're just like, what do you mean by that? And even though you're giving them a compliment, a perfectly sincere compliment, so I feel like there's just so much room for misunderstandings here. And like I said, the saving grace is that there will be an uproar, there will be a communication breakthrough. And the moment when this happens, I just would urge you to let them talk, hear them out. Let the stream of consciousness pour out, because you're dealing with a situation where it's not just about one thing that created the misunderstanding. It's a series of things, layers upon layers of BS, evasiveness, resentment, missed opportunities, just like layers and layers of it piled on. And they need to get that off their chest. They need to unload, and they want you to understand it's not just one thing, Cancers. It's a myriad of things. And I just feel like you're dealing with someone who is not sophisticated with the way in which they express themselves. Okay. So let's just say, let me explain what that means. I don't want cross watchers to get offended, but this is what I want to say, especially if you're a cross watcher and you're a fire sign. Lack of sophistication when it comes to communication. And this has nothing to do with the way in which you communicate, but it has something to do with the way in which you communicate with your Cancerian person. Does that make sense? So this is not about, you being a bad communicator. This is just you communicating in a way so that the Cancer person can understand. So I'll give you an example. I'll use Cancer and Sagittarius because that's a really hot duel right now. Okay, so Cancers and Sagittarius, they're walking around. Okay, it's kind of like a cool day, not too hot, not too cold. And the Sagittarius is dressed really well, and Sagittarius is expecting for it to get really cold. So Sagittarius wore her winter boots and her winter coat walking around with Cancers. Cancers, of course, checks the weather and knows that it's not going to be too hot. So Cancers is dressed appropriately, sneakers, a light jacket, and, is feeling really comfortable. And then Sagittarius is walking around, getting a little bit hot, getting a little bit warm under the collar, and they're realizing that their boots is not appropriate, and they're realizing that it's hurting their feet, and they're realizing that their wool socks is burning up. And so they're getting frustrated, and everything is just, it seems like because of their own physical discomfort, everything that day just becomes bad. Okay. They could go to the nicest restaurant, and then Sagittarius is just frustrated and it's like, I don't like the food. I feel hot. I feel tired. My feet are uncomfortable. And so you feel like the Sagittarius person is very melodramatic, and the Sagittarius person doesn't want to ruin the fun, doesn't want to say, let's go home. Doesn't want to say it's like there are so many things. The Sagittarius person might not know what is really bothering them. And what is really bothering them could be as simple as, my shoes are too hot. My socks are too hot. I'm not dressed appropriately. I'm wearing this big coat and I just want to throw away this big coat so I can be comfortable. But the Sagittarius might not know how to verbalize all these things, all of these factors that are affecting their emotional state. And so when they are upset, they just lash out, they're frustrated and they're angry, and they're picking at the things that's right in front of them rather than getting to the root of the problem. Okay. And so I feel like, this lack of sophistication when it comes to being able to know exactly what's bothering us. What is the root of the problem? And like I said, in their defense, it's a lattice, like a lattice on a pie, layers upon layers of things over the years, just piling on. And, I feel like one person is not able to forget all of the slights, all of the hurts, all of the rejection, all of the times in which the other person made us feel this little. And they hold on to that resentment. And so I do urge you to be patient with whoever it is that you're dealing with. And if you are a cross watcher, I do urge you to be very patient with your Cancerian person, because I feel like there's a very important conversation that needs to be had. Temperance, we have patience. Things are not always black and white, okay? Layers upon layers, okay? Things are not always just clear cut. Some people don't see things in black and white. Some people are just like, let's make allowances for gray areas. Let's, in the real world, things are rarely neatly compartmentalized in their equivalent parts like this. So this is sort of like, give and take. I say one thing, you say another. We both try to hear each other's side of the story and being patient as well. The stripes on the zebra helps it blend into its environment. Okay, so it's like being able to blend in, but also being able to put ourselves in another person's shoes. Okay, so I feel like this is what's coming through for you guys, and I have here no pentacle suit. So no news is good news on the financial front. And I feel like finances is going to be the least of your concern because you have a very important conversation that needs to be had with another person. And I do hope that you get it resolved. I do hope that the two of you can, at least in this moment in time, see eye to eye, understand one another, and approach this conversation with a lot of understanding, a lot of intention to try to understand, a lot of compassion, okay? And I pray that if you're dealing with this in a cross watcher, that they are also approaching this with a lot of compassion. But I do feel somebody's really pissed off. Okay. Very prickly, very defensive, and Five of Acorns. Melodramatic, okay? And just like they want to be heard so badly. And so, give them the time of day if you're dealing with them. Okay? I know it's easier said than done because I feel like this is a long-standing conflict and it's deeply entrenched and it's uncomfortable. But, I had a situation where I had a major confrontation, and what I did ahead of time was to pray that both sides could reach an agreement that is favorable. And I kept that in mind during the confrontation. And at the end, everything worked out. You have to set the intention that both sides can, see the light, both sides can sympathize, and then both sides can come together with a lot of compassion during this conversation. And I feel like everything will work out, the best outcome for all, okay? The intention has to be set without expectations. So it's not about, I want to win this argument or I want them to see how much they've made me suffer. It's not about that. It's about, doing what's best for both parties and approaching a situation with compassion from both sides.